Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Oh man. The one nice thing though about coming this way is you get a little bit more up and close with the vineyards. As you can see, they're all around me. Just endless fields of liquor. Well, grapes that then become liquor. So I was going to kind of talk about my advancement on motorcycles and how I got to what I'm on today. Currently I'm riding a 2013 BMW 700 GS. I did not buy this bike new. It was the demo bike from the dealership in Southern California where we were living at the time. It worked out pretty good. It already had the lowered seat and the lowered suspension, which with the BMW bikes you can't do aftermarket. I mean, I'm assuming you could probably get the lowered seat aftermarket, but the suspension you have to have done by a dealer. So, how did I get into motorcycle riding? Well, I grew up on the East Coast, originally from Connecticut. I started riding on the back of ATVs and little quads. Probably not the safest thing now in hindsight, but back in the day we would take a quad and tie a rope to it and then get one of those disc sleds and tie that to the back of the ATV and then drag each other through the snow. And then as we got a little bit older, we had a smaller dirt bike. I can't remember if it was like a little, like 150 or like a 75 cc bike. It was just like a small little dirt bike that we grew up on a cul-de-sac. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a dead end. We were on the dead end part of the dead end, so we had about a quarter mile or so, maybe a little bit more, to go up and down. And at the time there was an empty field. Now there's two houses there. So fast forward to 2008, my father had passed away. At this point, we now had to deal with whatever vehicles were left over or any estate stuff. So my brother thought it would be a good idea to get his motorcycle license, and my brother being 2 years younger than me, well, as the older sister, I can't let that happen. So one of my friends, she wanted to get a motorcycle license, so her and I both signed up for the safety course, and we both went for Thursday night, we went for book work, and on that Saturday and Sunday we went for riding. And I wasn't really in the market at the time, but my friend who took the class with me almost immediately bought a bike, and so I just kind of started sniffing around, and there happened to be a 2008 Honda Rebel with just a little over 200 miles. It was a really good bike. I had it for not super long. I was riding with a group of girls at the time, and it was only a 250, and the rest of the girls all had, you know, 650s or bigger bikes, cruisers, sport bikes. I just had this little tiny cruiser, and I had a really hard time keeping up on the freeway. So what I first did was get a windscreen. I decided I needed a little bit more power. So I sold the bike to a guy who I thought the second I let him take off with the bike, he was going to drive it into one of the parked cars on the street. So the next bike I bought was a used Buell Blast. My father, being the East Coast teamster that he was all about America and American bikes and American made, and so Buell was owned by Harley, and it was a sport bike, kind of what they would call a naked bike, for those of you who've never seen it. The funny thing though is that it's a single cylinder bike, and I'm not a super big person. For those of you who are trying to get a size comparison here, I'm 5'2", I weigh 126 pounds. For those of you trying to make a conversion, that's about 57 kilos. So the Buell Blast was quite funny being a single cylinder, because when I would sit at a light and the bike would idle, it basically looked like I was bouncing on a pony. So after the Buell Blast, I started sniffing around, and one of my girlfriends at the time told me about a motorcycle shop that she had a really good experience with, that they had a huge selection of bikes and that I could go sit on them, which was really key for me. I didn't really have any mentors or anybody that could tell me what were decent small bikes, what would be a good bike for my needs. So I figured, since I only had myself to rely on, that I would go and sniff around myself. And so I did, and I went up to the motorcycle shop, and they had a ton of bikes, and there was a Kawasaki 650 Ninja that was on sale. And so I asked the guy, why was it on sale? And at the time, they were trading over into the next year's bike, so they were just trying to get rid of an inventory. So I bought a brand new bike. I remember them dropping it off at the condo I was renting out of at the time. When they dropped it off the trailer, they turned it on and it had 0 miles, and I was like, oh God, what have I done? So here I am, 2013 BMW 700 GS. I think it's a great bike. I think it suffices for what I need. It's enough power. Sometimes I could use just a kiss more power with the way a lot of people drive out here. But we recently did a trip up to June Lake up by Mammoth in California, and we had this bike all loaded up with camping gear. I had my panniers on the side and my rear case and my tank bag, and it worked out pretty well. I seem to fit way better on this bike. I can pretty much touch flat-footed if I just scooch my butt to the side. I really like the way I sit on this bike. The gas tank actually sits back into the side of me. It's not in the front here where most people will normally fill up. My battery actually sits right up in here, which I think kind of makes me feel a little bit more stable on the bike. So it took me about the same time to get up here, going the other way, a little bit more scenic, a little less traffic, the road's not all torn up. If you guys kind of like what you see and like what you have to hear, you know, be sure to subscribe and like and all that fun stuff.